I'm finally back doing book reviews. Sorry it's been so long. I'm going to start with Tarzan of the Apes. I just finished reading it and I wanted to do a review of it. This is the original first Tarzan novel by Edgar Rice Burroughs. He also wrote the Princess of Mars books, which is what John Carter was based off of. I don't know if you saw the movie. I enjoyed it. I know it was a big financial flop, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really creative. And I was watching Disneycember again, just because I enjoyed it. Disneycember is by the Nostalgia Critic, if you have never seen it. And he just goes over the old Disney movies. And I saw his review of Tarzan, of the Disney Tarzan. And I thought, oh yeah, you know what? I haven't seen that movie in a while. And you know what? My grandpa keeps telling me I should read those books. And so I might as well do that. And of course, they're most of them are over 100 years old at this point, or at least the first few are. Because I think this one, Tarzan of the Apes, I think it was published in 1911. And so it's free public domain. I got, I think, the first 7 or 8 books for free. I'm not sure if more of them are free or not, but I will probably check because I intend to read what I can of them. I think there are 25 official novels, official approved by the Burroughs estate novels. Most of them were written by Edgar Rice Burroughs himself, but some of them were written by an approved author to continue the story. There are also unapproved, unauthorized versions. Most of those are either only available out of the country or they've all been destroyed. So anyway, I'm going to be comparing this a lot to the Disney version of Tarzan because that's the one I've seen, and I don't know, I've never seen any of the other film versions or the TV shows, so I have no idea what those look like. So I'm just going to compare it to the Disney one because I'm sure that's the one that most of us have seen. Pretty much, the Disney version took like a little tiny bit from the book and just kind of did whatever else it wanted to. And originally, sorry, my dog is barking. Coco, come here. Sorry. Originally, they were going to do a screenplay that was very similar to the book, and they would probably have to edit out some of the violence because it's actually very violent. It's a very violent book, which I'm fine with. You know, it's very entertaining, but they were going to do it much closer to the original book, and I see why they changed it, but let's go over the main story of the book. So, like in the Disney movie, his father and mother basically get marooned on this island. However, in the book, there are also major spoilers, by the way. This book has been out for over 100 years. You should read it, but major spoilers, so I'm just going to talk about it. So they're marooned on, it's not an island, it's actually the coast of Africa. But in the book, they are on a ship going towards John Clayton's new assignment. The father is John Clayton, Lord Greystoke. He's from England. He's going to a new assignment. And on the way, their ship, the people mutiny on the ship, and they strand him and his wife on the island because they don't feel good about killing them, and they leave them with their stuff, and then they go. And well, since they killed off all the people who actually knew how to steer the boat, they crash, and so they find the British Navy, I think, finds the wreckage, and so they just assume that Lord Greystoke is dead. So I think his cousin or his uncle or something becomes the new Lord Greystoke in England. Anyway, so they're on the island, and he's building a shelter and, you know, trying to survive. Well, the apes wind up, the main ape, Kerchak, who in the Disney movie is, you know, stern, but, you know, eventually kind of nice. No, Kerchak is a dick in this one. I mean, he is the big lead bull ape. Actually, they're not gorillas in this. They're sort of smarter and more intelligent versions of gorillas. But a big ape basically brain damages his wife. She has the baby, who you know will become Tarzan, but she lives for about a year, but she's very out of it. And then once his wife dies, he sort of forgets to lock the door and to grab his rifle, and Kerchak kills him. And another ape, before Kerchak can kill Tarzan, takes Tarzan and like gets away from Kerchak. And so Tarzan grows up, and this is very different from the Disney one, because in the Disney one, the Sabor kills his parents. Sabor is basically a title for the female lion, and he'll call them Old Sabor as a particular one, and then Sabor will just be another like female lion. They're not jaguars, they're lions. And so no, his parents were killed by apes, either directly or indirectly. That's what happened. And he grows up, and Tarzan is a very Gary Stu kind of character, except it kind of works in this just because, you're like, yeah, Tarzan, he'll just fix everything. And he pretty much does, but you don't really mind too much because it's an older book, and it's one of those sort of books you just picked up and you read. And, it was a fun time. And then new people come to the island in a very similar, or not the island, the coast of Africa, in a very similar fashion. They get marooned on the island when there's a mutiny that happens. Basically, it's Jane and her father, and like her father's sort of keeper. They have found a treasure chest. Her father is a little crazy and decided to spend a whole bunch of money on this one map that says where this lost ancient treasure was, and he found it. And then people decided to mutiny on the ship to steal the treasure, and they marooned them on the island. But then the people decided, well, let's bury the treasure on the island, because if we get caught with it, they're going to take it away. So we need to get back with the ship somewhere, take another ship that people can't track or they won't know what it is, and come back and get the treasure. And Tarzan steals it. Tarzan doesn't know what it is. He takes it, and he's just like, oh, it's something. He can't open it because there's a lock on it. And he sees Jane at some point, and he's like, oh my god, I don't know what she is, but I love her. Because, he's finally seeing people. He has seen some black people. There is a tribe that kind of sets itself up, and he interacts with them in certain violent ways. And he sees white apes, more white apes like him, and he sees a woman. It's the first time he's ever seen a white woman, and he's like, oh my god. One big difference also, Tarzan and Jane look completely different from the Disney movie. Tarzan, he's huge. He's like, they call him a giant. He's like over 6 foot tall. He's like very muscular, but he's got gray eyes and black hair, which is a typical Greystoke quality. And Jane is blonde hair and blue-eyed instead of, the brown. In the Disney movie, I think they made them brunettes and everything because it probably worked a little bit better with the color scheme, but that's incorrect for the actual novel the way it was. And so, yeah, stuff happens, blah, blah, blah. And another Clayton just happened, I don't know why, but he happens to be with them. I think he's traveling with them. He's about Tarzan's age. He is in love with Jane, and he's traveling. He's William Cecil Clayton, and I think he is like the son of the current Lord Greystoke, and whatever. And it's just kind of, they find that, ooh, these are the Greystokes in this cabin. They find the cabin, and weird things happen. Anyway, eventually they leave. Tarzan winds up being off in the jungle, nursing someone back to health when they leave, and they go on this sort of adventure thing to go find Jane, because that's his singular focus. And he learns how to write and read English, but he speaks French because he basically learned how to read and write English from books. He kind of figured out what they meant, but he couldn't speak. So he had no idea how it was pronounced. And to me, that's actually kind of interesting. I don't know if he could have figured out I don't know if figuring out how to read and write it would have worked, but I can understand how you can learn to read and write it, but you don't know how to pronounce it at all. He knows what the words in letters they mean. He knows what this means. He knows what, like, tree means, but he has no idea what these symbols, how you pronounce them. So the person he's nursing turns out to be French, and he teaches him how to say things in French, which is kind of a funny thing that happens. And they they eventually go to America, which is where Jane is from. They're not from England, which they say in the Disney movie. They're from America. And goes to America, and things happen. And Tarzan doesn't get the girl at the end because she likes him, but she realizes he's kind of even though he's sort of learned how to live in society a little bit, he's still like a jungle beast. She has no idea who he is. They still don't know that he is actually the legitimate Lord Greystoke. He finds out himself at the very end of the book and decides not to tell anybody because he wants Jane to be happy. Because Jane wants to marry the other Clayton, the other guy. Sort of. She kind of sort of wants to marry him. And so he wants her to be happy, and he's like, well, I could take away his lordship and everything by saying one thing, but I want her to be happy, and it ends. But there's like 24 other books, and eventually they get together, because there's a book called like The Son of Tarzan, and like I'm pretty sure he gets together with Jane and whatever. So, oh my goodness, it is so much different from the movie, and I see why my grandfather loves the Tarzan novels, and he hated the Disney movie. And I think there is one particular thing that they should have changed in the movie that would have been, made a huge difference. The bad guy's name in the Disney movie is Clayton. Clayton is the family name of Tarzan. And it's horrible that they did that in the animated movie, because it's like Clayton, just a throwaway name for a really terrible bad guy. I mean, the bad guy, one of the big complaints about the Disney movies is that the bad guy's motivations are really horrible. They're just like greed, and he's not a really good bad guy. I think the bad guy, there is no major bad guy necessarily in the original book. It's nature. It's the different animals and the sort of cannibalistic tribe that's near them too. It's not this stupid bad guy who they named Clayton. They really shouldn't have named him Clayton. And now I see why they changed some other things. In the first book, Tarzan actually does wind up leaving the jungle, and I think he eventually does come back to the jungle. But in the movie, they had him stay, and then Jane comes back and stays. And I think that because they didn't know if they'd get a sequel or anything, and you don't really want to have him leave and then have it sort of open-ended, almost a bittersweet kind of a thing, because I don't know if that would have worked as well with that movie. But they just changed the bad guy's name and also just completely gotten rid of him. That would have been so much better. So as far as, now say this was something that was written today, it reads like fan fiction. It does. It's written well grammatically and good vocabulary. And it flows very well. For being 100 years old, you can follow it super easy. I mean, it's not hard to read at all. But it feels like really bad fan fiction because Tarzan is the Gary Stu, Jane is the Mary Sue. Tarzan falls in love with Jane immediately. Now that is, I can understand, because he's never seen a woman before. She falls in love with him, and he saves her from something, and they start making out. Although, to her credit, she then backs away like, oh my god, what was I doing? And he, like, carries her off into the jungle, which is really fun. But it's like bad not bad fan fiction, it's just like fan fiction. And I just kind of like fan fiction that's written okay. But it's a good experience. I'm really interested in the story because this is Tarzan. This is the original Tarzan. He's supposed to be really awesome at everything. And you're like, yeah, go Tarzan. Go save people. And that's what he does. And it's okay. You like it. What I really liked is that there is romance in it. Not like romance novel necessarily, but they actually kiss. I mean, they show kissing, and that's fine. You don't expect necessarily sex from this. The very little, I mean, obviously they don't have sex. Some implied stuff with the apes and whatnot, but nothing weird or bad, just, I'm going to grab a weight and let's go. But it's a good read. It's about 260 pages long, and it didn't take me too long to read it. I read it for every night for maybe half an hour. It only took me a couple weeks to read it, I think, doing it that way. But very, very interesting, and there's plenty of sequels, and I'm going to read those because it's interesting. So yeah, sorry if this is a little rambling. It is so interesting, the changes between the Disney one and the book. And I understand the Disney one had to change because there's so much violence in this. It's awesome. Oh, but I think I was reading that the Burroughs estate they've bought back the rights to Tarzan, or they've retained the rights to Tarzan or something, and they're working with another like film producer or somebody to produce a new Tarzan movie. And this story would work very well in a regular like PG-13 rated R movie. They could probably get away with PG-13 as long as they, because Tarzan's supposed to be naked for a while in this book, but they could put him in a loincloth if they wanted to, or just cover him up. But they could do rated R too, because there's tons of violence. And I feel like that would work very well. They might want to change a few aspects to do, for it to be a little more modern, make the characters have a few more flaws. Show Tarzan being inept with the human stuff. Show Jane being more hesitant, like, oh, who is this guy? And not quite as quick to, fall for him. It's okay for him to fall for her quickly because he's Tarzan. He's never seen a woman before. Not a white woman, anyway. So, if they made a few changes, I think a live-action movie would be so, so good for Tarzan. And I would love to see it. So, yeah, sorry this was a little long, but that was my review of Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Check it out. It's for free. You can go to Project Gutenberg. I got a Kindle for Christmas, so you can go on the Kindle store and get it for free. And, yeah, so go ahead and check it out. It's a good read. It's not that long. And, yeah, so I will talk to you guys later. And, all right, bye.